and then I took a nap. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
All right.
Yes. It was me. Sometimes my Discord will switch my output device to my microphone,
Yeah.
and I won't notice it until it's like way too late.
It's all good. My computer has been doing this thing recently where Audacity will sneakily turn my volume down to 50% when I'm not paying attention.
I had the
And I have to
same issues with Audacity for a long ass time.
it's driving me nuts. I cannot get it to leave it at 100%. So every time I turn back on my computer, it happens.
So how are you doing? You doing good?
I'm doing all right. I'm
Good.
nervous. It's been a while.
So am I. It's okay to be nervous. If I'm nervous and you're nervous, and then we're both nervous, it's like it's totally, the vibe's all there.
Yeah. We'll get that energy up. It won't take.
Absolutely. So why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Dish or KP or Matt. Anything works. I run a channel called Knowledge Pool on YouTube. I also do guest starring on a bunch of streams for Commander. Recently, mostly charity streams. We've done quite a few this summer. Hoping to do a few more before the end of the year. And I've just play a lot of Magic and talk about a lot of Magic. Like most of my Twitter feed is MTG Twitter and trying to help the community assert some positive change on things.
Yeah, I'm always seeing you retweet those charity pods and those good vibe commander pods.
Yeah, I
So
do.
most
My
of the
best.
time, whenever I catch wind of one of those pods, it's usually through you or another member of the community who's just constantly retweeting positive energy.
Yeah, I feel like in the Magic space, we do tend to get like a little clicky and a little bit into our own thing, especially in division of game. So like if you play Alchemy versus Commander versus whatever. And so I try to keep pushing out things like, hey, we're all just playing Magic and we're just trying to do something, you know, have a good time and help some people.
Yeah, exactly. Clicky is a really good word. I've been using that word for a while to describe like the clickiness of content curation circles in Magic, because you'll have the circle of EDH people, and then the circle of historic people, and then the circle of explorer people.
Mm-hmm.
And I hoping we get to a day where it just kind of comes back to everyone just talks about Magic as like a singular entity.
Mm-hmm. I think it's closer than it seems. Like we run into a lot of issues, mostly because when, especially on Twitter, like Twitter doesn't give you a second to step back, right? Like I answer somebody's tweet and then go back to my homepage and there's 35 more tweets to read. And I've got a relatively small number of people I'm following. So it's constant barrage of information. So it's hard sometimes for players to just kind of take that macro moment and be like, I don't need to fight with this person. This person and I think the same game is amazing. And so we can at least agree on that.
Yeah, it's this weird, especially with Twitter and the way Twitter is Twitter will like pipeline people, and then you'll make like weird, I hate the phrase echo chambers, but that's all Twitter kind of becomes. And it's
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to open your eyes and see outside of Twitter and see that these are people who at their core enjoy the same game you do and are playing the same game you do, and maybe they play it differently or they have a different perspective, but we all have different perspectives on everything in life. And here we are talking about our perspectives on a game from a unique point of view that doesn't really get talked about, which is, addiction and obsessions. And I see a lot of people talk about, so many people talk about depression in the Magic space, and it's that angle never really gets picked apart, and you just have constant sad posting in Magic's community, and it's heartbreaking. But maybe maybe people can start kind of opening up to each other, which is kind of what I'm hoping to do here.
Yeah. I like the shields down mentality, and just the idea of, it's like, we don't have to start at 10, right? We can chill
Exactly.
at 2 and 3, and we can find the connections that make it worthwhile. Then if we have an argument or a discussion that kind of goes over the top, we can at least come back to that core area, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So I wanted to ask one
Mhm.
question before we got into the serious stuff. I watched Free Player, and I have two questions. Are you ever going to resolve the plot that starts in the pilot?
Okay. The short answers to this are yes. So I can tell you a little bit about what happened with Free Player. For the people listening who haven't got a chance to check out Free Player, check it out. My buddy and I put a lot of work into it.
It's great
But
content. It's really good content.
thank you. But essentially, I wanted to put out something that let people know that even though Arena can be sort of this money machine where you can get wrapped up into buying packs and paying for sealed events and doing all this extra stuff, that there is a way to play on Arena and build up decks and build up a collection without spending any money. And so Free Player follows me on a new account, starting from scratch, and only using the tools available to me to get into the goal in season 1. There is to get a historic challenge done and try to
Yeah.
win in historic.
And I saw you were mostly doing that through the limited route. And does that come from limited being like a good way to build your collection, or does that come more from your experience with like really high level limited play? Because I know you said you would top 8 sealed play. The Avacyn
Yeah,
Restore. Does that
yeah.
choice to play limited come from a budget and economy perspective, or does that come from just your experience as a limited player?
I think it's a little column A and a little column B, because definitely having draft experience and sealed experience, especially sealed experience, I got really used to evaluating things in a limited mindset. So when I came back into Magic, which I had originally come back in about a year before I started a Free Player, and it was just like, well, I know that I can do sealed and I can win sealed, and if I'm winning sealed, I get more back, so I can essentially chain it and see how we do. But also, just in base numbers, if you're going to play on Magic and you have the ability to play a sealed, sealed gives you more packs per, like, more guaranteed packs per game, per set of sealed, than any other format on
Yeah.
the system. So it's a good way, especially if you're new or you haven't gotten the thing. It's like, I know I'm getting 9 packs out of this at least.
Hmm.
If I get more gems, that's great. That means I can go back and do another sealed and get more stuff. But 9 packs is an official output. Like, for sure you can get it. And if you're too new to know what's good and what's not good, you could still get lucky and sealed. You could still pull a bomb rare and run an event. But if you're new and you try to draft or go into constructed with the low end decks that they give you, you might find yourself hitting a lot of walls and losing a lot of resources.
Yeah, you did an episode on frustration, and that was like a very insightful episode. But it's so many people hit that wall of like, okay, where do I go from this point where like I understand what I'm doing gameplay wise, but as like a free to play player, you're just stuck in this hole of not having enough rares or mythics or enough play sets of specific cards to branch out from limited.
Absolutely. And one of the things that people told me when they saw that episode at first was like, well, what if I don't like limited? And I'm like, I can't speak to the experience of someone who doesn't like limited, because I personally love limited. Like, I love the way that it kind of puts everybody on a more or less even playing field, and then you have to puzzle out what works. But I can say that playing a format that you like less than the format you love, with cards that put you on par with other people playing, is probably going to be more fun for you long term than trying to play the format you love with a deck you hate against people who are just curb stomping you.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, my second, I wrote down my second question about free play. It comes from the episode 0. When you're tied up, why didn't you it looked like you could have just moved your hands up and undone what looked like the jump rope. Did you not think of that plan at the time, or are you playing the long game and you're just getting into the mind of the big bad and letting him think he's in control? Or
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people asked me on that same thing if the big bad was a person at all, or if this was just
if it's
a
like a
thing in
mindset?
my mind.
Oh,
Yeah, like if it was a challenge in my mind.
huh.
And I thought that was a very interesting idea. Uh, I also think that jump rope or real rope, likely if someone has taken you to an undisclosed location and attempt to tie you up, even if it's not a great tie up, you might want to wait until they're not looking at you to do something about
Right.
it.
Whenever I see someone like tied up in a movie or a show or something, I always try to see like, okay, where are their hands? Can they get out of that? Because if they can get out of that, I'm kind of just wondering, what are they thinking?
Yeah, I think our first couple shots of that had my hands bound up front, but then we found out that the jump rope was not long enough to then be tied up around my back
Oh
if my
no!
arms were tied forward. So, all right. Oh, man. So I'm really glad to hear, though, that you enjoyed Free Player. And yes, we will be finishing out the we'll finish out the story at some point, and I'm also going to put out one that just kind of talks about why the last couple episodes haven't happened.
Right.
The short answer was we took on a little more than we could at that moment, and then things spiraled, which kind of leads into what we were talking about
Right.
for tonight.
So do you want to introduce that topic?
Sure, yeah. So I told you when we talked about it that I wanted to talk a little bit about food obsession. And real quick, I want to throw two things out here just in case. First off, if anyone that I know ends up listening to this show, I'm not calling you out, and I'm sorry if it sounds like I am. Nothing that you did has anything to do with who I am and the problems that I possess. But just in case my brothers listen to this and hear me talk about them, I want them to know that I still love you. This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. And secondly, I'm using the word obsession because I have not yet talked to a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist about it being a full blown addiction. And one of the things that I think is really scary is when people self diagnose themselves with a real problem, and then they don't do anything about it. So I want to make sure that that is the problem. And when I talk to various people about what's going on and what I think it is and all that, I get a lot of different answers that all kind of lead to the same problem from a different angle. So if I tell my partner it's addiction, she would come back and say that she thinks it's more of an eating disorder, based on things that have happened throughout my life growing up.
Right.
And one time, someone came to me and told me it was an addiction and said that they thought that for my best interests, I needed to get somebody to look at it, which is true, and I think that that's important. So, but also they're not a doctor, so
Right.
it's kind of hard. It's like I understand that you're worried for me. I'm taking that in and I'm absorbing that, but you're also not a psychologist, so I don't know what you know on addiction, right? So food obsession, as I've been calling it, is just the notion that when things get bad or things get dicey or I'm bored or I'm my mind is wandering, right? The subject almost inevitably comes back to food. Like me and my best friend, we almost don't do anything unless we're also going out to eat in the process. It's just some part of the thing. I ate before this show, and in the back of my mind, there's food. You know,
like as we're speaking.
Yes. Like,
can I ask if that does that the eating in the back of your head, is that something that's passive, or is that something that's because we're talking about your obsession, or we're talking about how you just ate? Is it triggering to think of eating and therefore you want to eat more, or is it like a passive just wanting to eat kind of thing?
I think it's mostly passive, and you know, I have at least checked to see if it's like a thyroid problem. You know, like I've had blood tests done, I've talked to my doctor, and we found out that I had sleep apnea recently, and she's like, well, you know, sleep apnea can help cause obesity because you're tired all the time, so you eat all the time to try to stay awake. And then you get bigger and you make the sleep apnea worse, so you don't, you know, get so I've been doing the sleep apnea thing, having the machine to help me sleep for a few months now, and it helps, but it doesn't take away the psychological part. And I would say that a lot of that is like just in the back thinking about like, what do we do, right? Have I dropped out a call?
No. Somebody joined.
Okay.
Just keep talking.
Yeah, so we you know, I use the word obsession, and I try not to be light about that, because one of the things that you have to do when you're trying to fix a problem is acknowledge that it's a problem, right?
Right.
So how this ties into Free Player in the last couple episodes. So right around that time, at the end of the last episode, I had filmed the other episodes. We had kind of gotten an idea of where we wanted to go, taken the thumbnail screenshots and all that. And I went to my oldest brother's wedding. At this point, I had been doing what's it called? Intermittent fasting for about 8 months. And for those who don't know what intermittent fasting is, you have like a small time period during the day in which you can eat, and then you don't eat until that window opens up again the next day. So for me, I was on a 20-hour fasting with a 4-hour eating window. You eat during those eating windows, you don't eat any other time. And it was working. I had lost something like 80 pounds. Currently, yeah, it was some life altering, really working out for me kind of thing. And I was, you know, I felt good about myself and what I was doing, and I was getting a lot of work done. I was really focused when I wasn't obsessing over food. I could turn that obsession toward more productive things, like working on the channel and, like, you know, getting work done. You know.
Yeah. Issues like this that drag you down physically and psychologically, they can just be, you know, they can just shut your life off for months or
Mm-hmm.
even years at a
Mm-hmm.
time. But making progress and like you'd said, acknowledging that there is a problem and that you need to make progress is such a huge first step, and I'm very happy that you came to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Quicksand was the thing that my friend said about it, who was at the time dealing with a drinking problem. He's just
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like quicksand. Like you can't just dig out of quicksand. It only pulls you further. You've got to
Exactly.
slowly draw yourself out and do what you need to do to. And that hit huge for me.
Yeah.
And things were going really well. And then I go to my oldest brother's wedding. So we had to drive out a couple hours to get there, and my oldest brother was getting remarried for the third time. He was It was a very nice little thing, and he had a meal afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
As our family often did, we tie everything with meals, and weddings aren't usually without one anyway.
Yeah.
So, but the brother closest to me in age, he and I have had a tumultuous relationship because I love him. He's very dear to me. I know he loves me. But when we were young, we're only 4 years apart. His friends, I knew a lot of them, and he didn't like that. He had his own issues, like anger issues as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I got beat up on a lot.
Oh.
And part of the trade off of that was I love him, but whenever he thinks I'm doing something good, my brain wants to do the other thing. Like and I noticed it at this wedding because I had been losing a lot of weight. Things had been going really good, and he takes me off the side and he's like, hey, I just want to say that I'm really proud of you, and I think that the intermittent fasting thing has really been working out for you. He's like, I've always tried to like get you on working out with me and this kind of stuff, but like the fact that you found something that works is really good. And then he proceeded to talk about addiction. And all three of my brothers have had something of that sort. One of them's a workaholic. The other one has had issues with gambling issues, and this particular brother has had drinking issues, smoking in the past, those kind of things. And I never did any of that stuff. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I usually take work in moderation unless I'm in extreme hyperfocus. Uh, but he looks at me and he's like, even though you didn't do any of the bad stuff that we did, I could tell you still had your addiction. And he's just like, I'm just really glad that you found an outlet to deal with it. And I knew that he meant it to be really sweet, and he was trying to be a really good brother, and I appreciate that. I have never wanted a cheeseburger more in my life than after Ben tells me not to have one.
Well, why do you think that is, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, I think a lot of it does have to do with that background, that childhood stuff, because when you're growing up with people who affect your life so strongly, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will sometimes they'll do great things for you. They'll lift you up, they'll do what they can. Sometimes there's some problems where you get torn down, and maybe they don't even mean anything by it,
Right.
but it can happen. In my family, my mom and dad were always good about trying to make sure that we had food. And I think that came from their backgrounds. Food wasn't always necessarily plentiful. They had decent paying jobs. They were teachers growing up. They had a decent amount of money by the time I was born, because I was born way later than the other brothers. My dad is 40 years older than me. So, like they had some time to have some money, and they always made sure that we didn't need anything, right? There was always food on the table. Christmases weren't bare. They tried their best to do that kind of stuff. But I always felt like it was weird to tell them no if they said, "Do you want more food?" Because they're offering it to me, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would eat. And like, I got used to this idea that like dinner time was like a time to eat and do stuff. And then if Ben would hurt my feelings or make me sad or something, I would go talk to my dad, and my dad would get me an ice cream bar and say something nice. And again, my dad was just trying to do what he thought was best, you know?
Right.
But I definitely internalize it's like if someone upsets you or if you are having problems and you need to reset, go grab yourself a snack, drink some water, and reset your mindset. Which made me a very calm child. And also a very large child. By the time I was in probably 4th grade, I was easily twice as big as the other students.
And you had mentioned that you were picked on and stuff for that too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
that
that
that leaves like long-term trauma, bullying like that, and
mm-hmm.
probably to just dislove your body and stuff.
Yeah, that cycle too. Like I always like when I got into high school, I was so full of myself because I was a very intelligent kid. I was a well-spoken kid. I had a outrageous reading level. And I was I'd already been I had just ducked out of top 10 in states in Pokemon like 2 years after it came out or a year after it came out.
And this was back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, this was 97, 98.
Yeah, 97 is when you said you'd gotten into TCG, right?
Yeah. I started playing Pokemon almost the day it came out. And I told people
the TCG or the handhelds?
The TCG.
TCG.
The handheld was definitely, I was pretty close to the front of that. That was like a Christmas game, and I got it around that time.
Mm-hmm.
But when the card game came out, I tell people that card games saved me from a life of crime because I was about 12, 13-ish when Pokemon came out. And that's right around the time that you learn that you can like lie to people and they'll buy it. And so I was getting super into like pushing like people's buttons and just like saying anything to see what people would believe and what they wouldn't believe.
I still do that as an adult. It's like it's such a problem I have.
It's hard. It's hard not to do.
I have impulsive thought. I don't know if you've ever watched any of our other content, but we do a quiz show on the channel, and I guess it's become a fan favorite thing when I will just gaslight our host into thinking that his quiz is wrong because he'll get the quizzes, go over them, and then me and Rob will do them, and I will viciously gaslight him into just thinking the quiz he has is wrong.
Oh man, that was my entire like junior high and high school career. It's nonstop, just like, how can I make this person believe that everything they know about the world is wrong? But at that same time, I picked up card games, and I'm like, well, at least that kept me out of like doing it to like police officers and stuff, like
right.
It kept me from stealing. I started getting into this. My dad was super supportive and helped me like he wouldn't buy like a lot of stuff because we didn't have that much money, but he would buy packs whenever like we could do something, and he tried to learn it with me, which was really nice.
My mom used to like reward me with packs of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I didn't like Yu-Gi-Oh. So I ended up having such a huge vintage Yu-Gi-Oh collection, and then I would trade my Yu-Gi-Oh cards for Magic cards.
Absolutely. Oh my god, absolutely. It was so fun because I know that my dad still tries to have interest in my stuff, so like I tell him I made a new Magic video or something like that, and he'll watch it and he'll just be like, okay, and then he'll have me explain it frame for frame because he has no idea what any of the stuff that we're talking about is. He's like, now Commander, that's your game, but how do you But it was I had gotten so full of myself during these years that whenever somebody would try to turn on me about my physical stuff, about my weight, especially because it's pretty much the ammunition they had, right? I would just figure out what it is that made them feel insecure and tear into that until they cry, and then I'm the bully, but it also means that I'm protecting myself, and you hear that all the time that
Yeah.
bullies are also bullied,
You
right?
fight fire with fire.
Right.
Yeah.
But all that does is burn everyone, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's definitely some latent, trauma there that hopefully I get to discuss with somebody soon.
Professionally.
Yeah, professionally. And if there's anything that anyone takes out of this is don't wait if you can avoid it to get help.
Absolutely.
To coin that old meme, the best time to deal with a problem is the first time you realize it could be a problem. The next best time is right now.
Yeah. I had told my fiance a few days ago, like the first time I really accepted that I had a drinking problem was I had drank in 2.5 handles of Fireball when my band had to take a 2-hour trip for the show, and they not only thought I was like dead in the car, but they were more annoyed that I might just be blacked out the whole time. And I was kind of just like, I'm in such a weird situation where like the people around me and enabling me were more mad that I might not have been able to like do a music thing than they were that I might have died. And then I was in this situation where like I could have died. And it was like,
Yeah.
it's just like, that's, it's like you say, that's the moment where you're just like, okay, this has to get handled because I definitely don't want to die.
Yeah.
But it's hard because like I also really want to keep drinking. So it's just this
Yeah.
intense struggle.
Oh man, absolutely. And that's what I was saying when my brother and I talked, and he tells me this meaningful, like deep, apologizing for years of issues and stuff like that, a real tearjerker moment. And all I could think was, I just want to eat. All I want to do right now is eat. I want to eat a full plate of spaghetti in front of you, and I want to break all this goodwill that you're trying to build up, and it's not his, at that point, it's not his fault, right? And when you're an adult, you look at these things and you're like, there's plenty of places you can go back and kind of pinpoint and be like, maybe that's when I learned this about myself, or maybe this is when I took things too far, or whatever. But when you're an adult at that point, you've got to say, no matter what this person is doing to me or has done to me in the past, I'm choosing to make the wrong decision. And I'm not pushing myself to acknowledge this problem and do something about it.
Exactly.
So thank God there was no food to eat. We had already eaten our food for the day. I had already had them take away my excess fries because I was trying to stick to my diet. And I get home and I had a little cry about it, and I did what I needed to do to center myself and not have that issue. We had an issue with the last couple episodes of Free Player as far as like visual stuff goes, and it almost brought on a full-on relapse of just eating all the time, all this stuff. Plus the pandemic hit, and it became harder to like justify, like trying, like it's like, well, why am I trying to get well? Who's gonna see me?
That was
Who's
like
gonna know?
yeah, that was the whole, it was like trendy to gain COVID weight, and it
Yeah.
was like there were, people in situations maybe similar to yours or just like yours who were struggling with weight or food obsession who were now, I suppose, passively being enabled or validated. Was it
Mhm.
hard for you to be on the internet and just see people talking about COVID weight and COVID weight being like a trendy thing? Did that impact you at all?
It did impact me. I would say in some ways it emboldened me in a really bad way, because the idea of enabling is definitely there. It's like, if I gain my weight back right now, no one's going to blame me. The world's on fire. You know, like, I was teaching at a school in the area where a lot of the race riots happened, and I was dealing with COVID after that, and uh, in St. Louis, there's no shortage of bad things going on at any given time, right?
Yeah.
Missouri is one of the places that's being real bad about Roe v. Wade being
Yeah.
overturned. So, like, if I do bad things in my area, no one will blame me. No one will be like, "Oh, Matt regained all that weight." They're just like, "Oh, of course he did. What else is he going to do?" Like, and that made it worse, because I was like, I have excuses, and I could use these excuses. And so for a little bit I did, and I almost gained all that weight back. Not all of it, but pretty close. And only in the last like 6 months or so, after starting to do the charity work and working with the various groups on Twitter, and re-getting back into Commander, which is a format I love, have I been like, you know what? I need to get my stuff together again. If I'm going to do YouTube videos again, I do need to go back onto trying to present my best self. I can't just go out there with my face half shaven and eating it, sipping on a
Yeah.
milkshake while talking online. I've got to do something. And having that place on the internet that I have to do better for helps a lot. It really drives me to like get up and like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna shave today because I'm filming today. I'm needed on 2 streams tonight, so I'm gonna at least get 1 deck made, and I'm gonna start writing a script. And that kind of stuff really helps just like drive out those background passive ideas of, when's the next meal coming.
Yeah.
Like,
having a routine is so helpful. You had talked about the fasting as well. When you're only when you have a 4-hour window to eat, and the other 20 hours of your day are made up of EDH pods or scheduling and writing content. Just getting your mind to I don't know if there's a word for it, but to just exclude passive triggers and passive intrusive wants and needs to binge any sort of any substances. Having just a full routine just can do so much to just not kill the urges, but shove them down while you look for professional help, or while you have professional help, or while you're sort of walking the path to recovery, or just discovering where you really want to end up.
Absolutely. And I think that drive is so good at deterring negativity. Like, you've always heard the phrase, idle hands are the devil's playground. But in reality, when I think about the times that I'm just like stuck in a loop where I'm just like going to the fridge or whatever, it's because I literally have nothing else to do. Like, there's no game lined up. There's no event to start working on. There's no script in my head.
Exactly.
There's no song to mash up, whatever. And it's like, I have to find those things that keep me on target while I work out this background stuff to try to get professional help.
Exactly. It's all about, like we talked about earlier, acknowledging the problem, and then acknowledging that there needs to be a decision made, because some people don't want to address their problem. Some people are functioning with problems. I was considered like a functioning alcoholic for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, but then there was, it's the acknowledgement that there was a point where I was not functioning at all. I was blacked out for like 5 hours a day. And for me, it was like baby steps getting to a point where it's like now I think I had what I had one beer the other week, and it was like the first
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic drink I've had since my birthday. And the only reason I drank alcohol on my birthday was because I went to Outback and they had a drink called the Pina Koala, and I thought the pun was too good to not like. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my, I have to have this drink. It's such a good fucking pun. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like now I'm at that point where it's not like I don't I don't see alcohol on a menu and go, I just need a drink because it's there. I see a pun and I'm like, oh, I really appreciate that pun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing into that. And part of the whole passive thoughts things that we talked about is I do go like, well, maybe if I drink this, it's gonna be like all downhill. But then it's like I have a good network of support. And
Mm-hmm.
when you get there, when you go through recovery, because I've been to rehab. That was so long ago; it's not even relevant anymore. But it's like 10 years after getting all of the help I needed, I'm still able to be like, okay, well, what should I be doing? I've fucked up 3 or 4 times in my life at this point. I'm grown enough and I'm smart enough and I know better, um, that I know the consequences of slipping up or of having these impulses and just acting on them again.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's a little different. I might be a little different from you on that, or you might be different from other
Yeah,
people. Everyone deals with recovery and addiction and obsession so differently, diagnosed or undiagnosed. Everyone tackles it differently, but there's no reason we can't tackle it together. There's no reason we
abs-
can't have discussions like this with, anybody, even our friends or people in our EDH pods or whatever. Would you say the EDH people you play with are like a safety network for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With my crew, I mean, we call ourselves a crew, even though a lot of us are just like disparate players who wanted people to play with or wanted to give back to a community and just kind of found each other. And now, even though there's 30 of us or whatever in the various groups doing various work, I feel really close with a lot of them enough to, I can talk about what's going on with, my struggle or my journey, depending on where I'm at in it.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell them it's like, hey, I want to be able to talk about this during the game. Is that okay? And get some response on some support on that. Or I can be like, right now, I don't even want to think about the stuff going on at work or think about the thing. All I want to do is play Commander. And they'll be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like let's
Yeah.
focus up on the stream and make it about the stream and make it about and chats in particular I absolutely love. Like anytime I get knocked out of a game early or uh like things are slowing down and we have to vamp for something, I will start talking to a chat and it makes me feel so good just to kind of see people who want to be engaged with whatever's going on. They want to know more about the commander game. They want to know about the play patterns that we're doing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they'll ask questions and they'll be involved and they'll make jokes. And so I love getting a chance to just kind of sit with them and just be like, "What's going on, Chad? How you doing tonight?"
That's so wholesome. It's great to hear that you've
Oh, yeah.
sort of just found maybe where you belong in this whole thing, and you're finding people who make you feel belonged. I don't know if that's a word, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. To belong in and give someone else a place to belong in return. Absolutely.
yeah, it's really important to just find that and settle into that, especially when you're dealing with mental health or physical health issues.
Hmm. One of the things I wanted to talk about while we were in here is I heard you talking before the stream started about how you had found me through me following you.
Yeah.
When I followed you, we were still in the middle of that whole. I'm not going to say his name, but the Twitter bad actor who kept coming back, various different names, but same issue over and over again.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I saw you in one of the posts talking about it, and then just kind of like being like, "There's too much stuff going on with with everybody right now to have to deal with this too, right?" And I was just like, 100% that's true. There's so much going on in the world right now. This extra bit didn't help. And then I saw you put up a post that was talking about Alchemy, and I don't play Alchemy a ton. And
do you remember the post?
Oh, I remember what you were saying, which was the gist of it was like, hey, all I'm trying to do is be out here and enjoy Alchemy. And I don't understand why so many people have to shit on a format that they don't know, they know nothing about.
I love Alchemy because it's different. It's something different. But yeah. I also love it so much because everyone else hates it, and I can post about Alchemy and people will be like, "You're stupid, Alchemy sucks." I thought when you said an Alchemy tweet, I thought you were I had made a tweet about how can people be worried about this person's behavior when Alchemy exists, and a bunch of angry face emojis. And somebody took that the wrong way, and I was like, did you find me through somebody thinking that was like a real post? So I don't know if you're aware, but months before all of that happened, I had made a post about that. It was like the first public post about that person because I was the whistleblower in the original the old Magic Arena Discord. The non-official one had a ton of sexism in it, and I had like posted months worth of screenshots, and that's why WotC kind of doesn't really associate with them anymore.
Oh wow!
And then I came forward about this person, and people were like, "No, you're wrong," because that person's nice. And I was like, "Okay, whatever. One day, this person's gonna get exposed hard, and I'm just gonna post a ton of fucking memes about it, and it's gonna be really funny." And that's kind of what happened. I liked all of the Spider-Man pointing memes; those were really good.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember I was like, why is this happening? And then I saw your original thread on it. And I'm just like, this was called, like this was a long, like, no scope way out there. And
it was 4 months before that a bunch of women came forward about that person. Yeah. I'd made a single tweet that made a lot of EDH people hate me, and to this day still have me blocked because they consider that person a friend. And I understand like being wrong and wanting to die on a hill, but like keeping me blocked because I called out that person while they were your friend is such a weird hill to die on.
It's a weird place to be. I don't think I have anybody in the community blocked, save for that one guy who blocks every single person who says anything. Yeah,
Jeff and I wouldn't say Jeff and I are friends, but Jeff has me blocked, and I interacted with Jeff at paper events, at online events for years, and I was just blocked one day, and I was okay. I guess I'm going to stop spending money on your brand because you just randomly blocked me, I guess.
Yeah. I don't even know if I have him blocked, but I do know that.
Like, does he have you blocked?
Woodwork. He probably.
Check.
I don't even
know. Do you want to check right now?
Yeah, sure. What's the name on it? It's
Jeff Hooglin.
Hooglin. That's right. Okay. Let's see.
I love you, Jeff. If you ever watch this, but stop blocking random people, dude.
Okay.
It's fucking weird.
Typing in Jeff Hooglin, I got a track cyclist. I don't think that's the one I'm looking for.
Here, let me get his official.
There he is. Jeff Hooglin.
I can't even see his Twitter because he has me blocked.
Yeah, I think I must be blocked because I can't see his Twitter at all. All I see is people talking about him.
I'll DM you his official website, and you can find his Twitter through that.
Yeah, let's see what's up. We're doing this for you, chat. We're going on a mission to find
I am blocked. I am blocked by Jeff.
Let's see. Okay.
Who I've been like a supporter of for a very long time.
This is his main site. Where is his?
It's at the very bottom. Twitter. If you scroll down, you'll see the Twitter.
There we go. Yeah.
I also love the irony that his like website picture is like him dressed like a clown, a jester.
Yep, I'm blocked. Yep,
I love it. Yes, yes.
And like, honestly, I don't know anything about him. He could be a great guy.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy who just takes things way too personally.
Yeah, but like he probably just has like a bot on at this point, right? That's just like,
I think
look for my name and auto block him, and I'll check it later to see if it's worth.
I think he has a bot that will a bot or like an intern who will go through tweets that are memes about him and just block everyone who likes and retweets.
Oh yeah.
And I had liked a tweet that I didn't know was about him, and that's how I ended up blocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure it's something like that. Oh man, that's so funny. but yeah, like I saw you responding to, and it felt like just like a genuine moment where it's like, I'm just trying to like the game, right? I'm just trying to enjoy the game and not have people like make videos about how Alchemy's dying or Alchemy's terrible or whatever. You know, I would just want to be able to play the game. And at that time, I had recently stopped playing Historic a lot and gotten back into Commander, and I was feeling similar. It's like, it's weird when you're into various formats in this game because a lot of people act like you can't be. Like, you can't just enjoy playing Magic in all its forms. So that's when I hit you with a follow. And then shortly after that, you like ripped the EDH community so hard.
What did I say?
It was just like, you were just like something about like all these EDH players think that that their version's the only way to play a game. Let me tell you a little something about EDH, and you just kind of went off on this thing about like how basically EDH isn't as good as the people who play it think it is. And then like 2 days ago, you put out one that said something about the EDH circle jerk community.
I said something like EDH players like circle jerk themselves, and it's like, and then they'll complain about being made. I don't know. I don't remember what I said.
Yeah.
I think it's just like we talked about earlier. It's just like you have, and it's not like I'm the only one who's aware of this. A lot of people are aware of it. It's EDH Twitter and EDH TikTok are just this crazy echo chamber of, I don't want to say bad opinions, but like wildly out there.
It can get super wild, right? Like, I think, were you the one who posted on, you were talking about, I think, Magic 30, and you were talking about how basically like all events cost money. Like, it costs money to run events, it costs money to make events. The idea that one event is too pricey or whatever, it was like a very privileged position to sit from, which a lot of EDH players were talking about, right? It's like, I can't go because
I had said something along the lines of, I'd said something initially that was bad English. I didn't really say it right, and then I rephrased it later on, like an hour or two later, and it was basically, I was like, EDH is this format, and I don't play EDH. I always try to preface this when I talk about not liking EDH and content. I don't play EDH, but I will play EDH, and I enjoy EDH, but I like 60 card constructed and limited a lot more than EDH. So it's like, if I'm going to make content or do anything that I want to do, it's going to be with the format I like, just like EDH players will do it with EDH because that's what they like. And there's nothing wrong with either of those things.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had said something like, it was bizarre to me to see people talking about Magic events costing money when, GP players and PTQ, I'd probably spent a few $1,000s grinding GPs in like 10 years of Magic. And then, playing Magic online and playing Arena, it's so much money when you're a competitive player. It's really is an investment. We can't proxy, as much as we would like to. I would fucking love to proxy a vintage deck and go to like a vintage 5K, but I have to go to like a safe and open my safe to get my vintage deck out, to go, just to go 3-0 at a vintage 5K that I paid $300 to enter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would fucking love all that to be free. But it's the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, you can play Magic on spell table or at your kitchen table or over Tabletop Simulator. And I understand FOMO is a thing. It's a huge thing on social media. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of people need to appreciate a little more how easy it is, especially this day and age, to just find a person or a group on the internet and just have a game of Magic accessible. You don't need to spend $700. You don't need to spend $300 or whatever dollars. I get that it sucks that you have to in that situation, but there's going to be a million other situations, probably not that many, probably 100 situations a month where you can play EDH with cooler people who aren't going to pug stomp you for free with a full proxy deck over spell table on Twitch, and the chat's there and everyone's having a great time and it's completely free. That's all I was trying to say, is it costs no money to have fun playing Magic at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I could feel that even from the first one that was kind of like a little weirdly worded.
I think you are the only one.
I knew what you meant, because the idea is that as EDH player, I sit in a very different viewpoint than I used to, because I was a competitive player for a long time, and like grinding out Planeswalker points to try to go to GPs.
Oh my god,
and stuff
Planeswalker
like
points.
I was playing at one point. I was playing 7 days a week at different card shops in the city.
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah, just
you didn't have a choice.
Just to try to keep my points up so that I could potentially go to a GP or a Pro Tour qualifier or something. And during that time period, I was spending so much money on the game. And I also worked at a card shop and I ran a card shop for a little while. So I was able to make some money back, but not really anywhere near what needed to happen if I was going to make this like a profession,
Exactly.
And now I came back, and like my first rule coming back into Commander, I was like, I always buy the precons, so I'm going to continue buying the precons. No cards over $20. No, like I'm not buying Great Henge, and I still haven't bought Great Henge, even though it's a great card and I wish I had it. And just like if people have a problem with proxies, then they have a problem with my deck, and that's fine. I'll play a precon, but I'm not going to, go out of my way to pick up these cards that I don't actually need because the EDH community doesn't demand it of me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it's such a different position to start from, but I haven't forgotten my roots, so I know that like the idea of like it's a valid feeling to be like, I've had to pay for Magic my whole life, so paying for a Magic event does not sound like a big deal to me.
Yeah,
that's an incredibly valid position. And the other side's super valid too. It's like, I only am going to meet with some friends and play some Commander. I don't think that the lowest ticket being $180 facilitates that, plus it being in one of the most expensive cities in the country.
Around one of the most expensive times to be in that city. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, I'm like, that's incredibly valid too. So like, I ended up choosing to go to the summit. I'm going to be going to the summit. And I know a bunch of other creators got the apprentice program thing.
Yeah.
Which has its ups and downs. I'm at least glad that there's some way for them to kind of shrug off some of this cost.
I saw a lot of people like having some negative thoughts about that, and coming from like a touring band background, we used to be in situations where like we would have to do ticket sales for shows or we couldn't play. And I'm like, I absolutely have sympathy for these creators who are in that same kind of boat where they have to do like a certain, I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't really talked to anyone about it. It's not my business. But to my understanding, it's basically the same concept of like, you're a band, you're touring, you have to sell X amount of merch or X amount of tickets, or you just don't get paid, or you don't even play. and it's like, yeah, that fucking sucks, but it's like that's an opportunity, and that's an opportunity to like grow, and and I hate the word exposure, but it really is just like a not exactly paid an exposure, but compensated an exposure for the the unpaid work you had done. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy for all the people who can get that, get in on that program. And people saying negative things about it, I'll be frank, kind of need to just shut up. Like, it's not your business. If you were offered the same thing, you would 100% do it. Anybody would. I would. I don't even know what. I don't even really know what Magic Summit is. But if I was offered like that position, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, I will absolutely like do everything I need to do to just get out to this event, because now I'm on a poster. I'm gonna have like a little booth. It's just like, why not do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that that's another one of those things of wrongly directed anger, right? If you're going to get mad at the tournament event organizers that didn't want to just pay for the people that they're bringing in, or get mad at WotC for creating a situation that kind of helped escalate that, because Magic 30 is an expensive ride, and
it's insanely expensive, yeah.
Yeah, and by doing that, they have created a set where it's like, well, here's a severely cheaper thing. Maybe I can go to that, and created an opportunity for unpaid work. But if you're going to direct your hate, don't direct it at the people who are just trying to make it so that they can go to an event.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
It's insane.
Don't be mad.
It's like, you wouldn't get mad if your favorite band was playing like I just use the whole band analogy, but I'll rehash it. If your favorite band's playing a show and it's like, hey, we couldn't play the show because we didn't sell enough tickets, you're not going to get mad at the band. You're going to get mad at the idea that like, this scenario requires so many people to have to jump through hoops to make things possible that it's like, maybe there's not one person to blame, but the one person you can't blame is the person who is at the absolute bottom of this chain of trickle up, we're making money so you can host your event, and then that's our payment, and then we get there, and then blah blah blah. It's like, the only person who doesn't really win in this situation, if it goes south, I guess, is the content curators, who are the ones who just, raise just enough money but not enough to go, and it's that fucking sucks. That's an awful feeling, I bet.
Yeah. And on that note, if you're listening and you're planning to go to MTG Summit, support these creators even if you don't feel good about where it's at. Put in some codes, and I told them on Twitter the other day, I was like, I don't know what kind of contract you sign. I have no idea what's going on, but hey, if you've reached your thresholds that you've paid for your event, maybe start plugging other people's code. I'm just saying, like, I know that you want to get paid more if you can, and I understand the hustle, but right now we're talking about the idea that some of you might not even be able to go after getting X number of people to already sign up under your code.
Exactly. So I'll say this, I haven't said this publicly anywhere, but like, I have like supported, contributed for people to go. I'm not even going. I don't even really know what it is. I don't play Commander. I don't follow Commander. I know about Commander Sealed because I'm actually interested in that because it's near me and it's sealed, and I like sealed. But Summit, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't even know. What was it? What was the state it's in? I don't remember what this was. I'd never even heard of the state that it was in.
So the Summit's going to be in Salt Lake City. It's taking place in November, and it has a big Commander thing going on, but it also has a sealed event where the main prize is a Black Lotus. Like, it's got a bunch of different sealed and constructed events going on throughout the weekend too. It's basically another Magic 30, just not sponsored by Wizards and maybe not quite as hype. It's going to be a more chill event, it sounds like.
I scrolled back on the Degenerate Gaming Discord on so 8/11/2022. LMAO, where the fuck is Utah? Next to Colorado, a mega lol. And my Polish browser, for some reason, spelled Colorado with a K. I don't know why, but I didn't know they had sealed. But I'm still like, people got to get out there. People got to eat. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, help these people, get them where they're going, and have them show, And I'm not only saying that because a lot of these people are my friends, and it'll be a good time for me to finally meet them and face to face. But it's going to be a good time, and I wish that we as a community celebrated good times more often.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know.
Like even if that good time is like, I don't know, this or like a commander pod that you just threw together last minute with a bunch of people on Twitter, even if that's your good time doesn't have to be Magic 30 or some big huge FOMO event. Your
Mm-hmm.
good time can be the smallest of gatherings, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose.
Yeah. If magic is about the gathering, as content creators like to say, then any gathering is a good gathering.
Exactly.
And yeah, take those wins and enjoy those moments. I got to play a game off stream with Shanable, Chris Von Doom, and Twin Star the other day. And a couple of those players I play on stream, and they will play cutthroat commander, like high level commander decks. And we're all sitting there with fairly decently strong decks, and we're just having fun pushing each other around a little bit. It's just like a little like tap push, and then be like, "What's up?" and give them a second, and then do it again. And we're laughing about it. Poor Shan was mana screwed for like 3 or 4 turns, and she's like, "I just played commander. It's all I want in life." It was so fun to just hang out with these people and have them be in presence, and
Yeah.
especially right now when being able to visit real life friends is
Mm-hmm.
difficult, and anything that can interrupt a real world situation can happen like that. Like, take these moments as a win.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start wrapping things up. Do you have any last things you want to say about anything we talked about tonight?
Oh yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest things that anyone can do to aid in their own mental health journey, like I said, don't put it off. If you can recognize that there's something that even might be a problem, and you have resources near you, I urge you to use those resources, find something near you, and do something about it. But even if you don't have something like that going on in your life, check in with somebody sometimes. Check in with a friend that you haven't talked to in a little bit, especially right now as things open back up. Talk to, of someone you might have played Commander with face to face or sealed with face to face. I went and got in touch with my old boss at the card shop when I first started getting back into charity work, and it was like no time had passed at all. I hadn't seen him in probably 3.5 years, and he acted like a day hadn't passed. It was right back
Wow.
into it. And just find those people that you used to connect with and check in on them. Maybe things will be good, maybe things will be bad, or maybe you'll just not be in the same place as you were, but you'll be glad that you put yourself out there, and you might be able to rekindle something that you had.
Good words. Good words. Yeah, I don't know how to close out an episode, but I definitely want to thank you so very much, because we did have a first episode cancellation, which is totally fine. And I think I put out the tweet and I was at work and I was like, all right, I'll check my phone when I get home. Worst case scenario is I do something else, because somebody else is already, you were on the list, and then I think 3 other people were on the list. I was like, it shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
hard to get someone, and you were instantly like, I'll do it, and I was like, oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, we had the stars align. I was off work today, and I was able to see that. So I saw it, and I knew that I think that this is so hugely important. I knew I wanted to be a part of it, and I'm so glad that you got a chance to do this today. And I can't
Thank
wait to
you.
see what's coming up. Like, I think it's going to be great.
Thank you, that means a lot to me. Do you want to plug your socials and your YouTube and all that before we?
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Matt Dish. I'm from the Knowledge Pool. If you guys want to find me any place, you can check out www.knowledgepoolmtg.com. You can find my YouTube there, my Twitch there, my Twitter. Got some big things coming up on Twitch soon. At least we're trying to get together a game of Box Commander for the release of Dominaria United, and we've got. That's where you can find apparently my Aether Hub is on there, but my Mox Field is not. That's going to get fixed. But if you want to find my Commander decks, that's a good way to find what I'm brewing. And, just come out and hang out. All we do is play Commander, play Magic, and have a good time. So be a part of that.
Yes, please be a part of that. Thank you so much for being here. We're gonna end it. I'm gonna take I guess like a 15-minute break, and then I guess Borderlands is coming back. I guess I don't know. This went for so much longer than I expected, but in the best possible way, and I'm very happy about that. And I'm very thankful you were here. I'm very thankful you are here. Just in general, just around. You're a very pleasant person, and I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll be back in 15 minutes, guys, with Borderlands 2, I guess, if Rob's still awake.